Hey up guys! So before I dive into my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I want to dedicate this video to, not a sponsor, don't worry, it's actually to my Guardians of the Galaxy Secret Cinema family. Last year I had one of my favorite jobs ever working on Secret Cinema Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was so much fun. Saving the galaxy every night, dancing to Footloose, or Let's Have a Kiki in the Neon Lotus bar, or breaking out of prison with Project Nullifier. Oh yeah, if you know, you know. And yeah, I absolutely loved working with those guys. I miss working with them every day. Is it going to influence my opinion of the new Guardians movie? Am I biased? Well, not really, because I actually think I did love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 more than 2. So yeah, let's just dive right into the review, shall we? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the 32nd movie in the MCU, and the third time that James Gunn has written and directed a Guardians movie. He also made the cute little Christmas special that came out on Disney Plus last year. This is a franchise that is clearly so close to his heart, and I am so glad that he got to make the final film in his trilogy. It's hard to believe, given how much of a prominent figure that James Gunn is in all these superhero movies these days, that there was a time when James Gunn's future at Marvel and Disney was in jeopardy. Remember back in the day when those old tweets resurfaced and Disney fired him for making the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie? But then all the cast and crew banded together and came to Disney and said, look, without James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy isn't going to work. And so when James Gunn publicly apologized, they reinstated him to complete his trilogy. And I am so grateful for that. And I agree with the cast. Without James Gunn, the Guardians movies wouldn't have worked as well as they do. And it's especially true about the third film, because if James Gunn hadn't directed it, then it wouldn't have had his voice in it. Not all three of the films would have felt cohesive. It would have felt like someone else was behind the driver's seat. And I honestly don't think there's another director out there that could have done a better job giving us the third Guardians film better than James Gunn. Fundamentally, the Guardians movies are all about family, and James Gunn has always been seen as the patriarchal figure of this group of misfits who consider themselves to be family. Sure, he's made some mistakes in the past, but as with one of the themes of Volume 3, everybody deserves a second chance. And Volume 3 is a terrific film. I will admit, I've been feeling a little bit of MCU fatigue recently. I haven't really been wowed by an MCU movie since Spider-Man No Way Home. And I haven't really been emotionally moved by one since Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but that was mostly because it was a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and I found the movie overall to be quite uneven. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the jolt of life that I needed to feel with the MCU. This is the MCU film with the most heart and soul that I've seen in a good while. I think part of the reason that works so well is that James Gunn decided to take a step back story-wise and tell a far more stripped back, more personal story with Volume 3. Because with the Guardians movies, the stakes are always massive, okay? Like, the galaxy's in danger, half the universe is gonna be wiped out and all that, okay? The stakes are as big as they get. But with this one, the focus of the plot is far more personal, because the mission of the Guardians is to try and rescue one of their own, Rocket, who's voiced by Bradley Cooper. It's a far more intimate story, and I would argue that the stakes actually felt bigger to me in this film than the previous one, because it's Rocket, you know, it's one of their own, it's family, and it's just far more closer to home when you really care about one character than literally all the characters in the universe which you don't really know or connected to. But we spent a lot of time over the years getting to know Rocket and falling in love with him. There is still a much bigger threat with the main villain of this film, who's called the High Evolutionary, played by Chukwudi Iwuji, who wants to genetically engineer a perfect utopian society. But really, it's Rocket and the revelations of his tragic backstory which we're most invested in. I both loved and hated the flashback scenes of Rocket's past. I loved it because it did answer some yearning questions I've had about Rocket, despite how heartbreaking the answers actually were. But also, as an animal lover, I loved seeing him in his youth and him being part of this little merry gang of other technologically enhanced animals who he's like best friends with. And yeah, as an animal lover, I did find some of these flashback scenes quite distressing to watch. I'm not lying when I say I think I wept about 4 times watching this film, but that's just because I care about the characters so much, and that's what James Gunn really excels at. He knows how to flesh out his characters and how to make you feel attached to them. And with his Guardians of the Galaxy films, he always prioritizes characters and emotion first, and action and spectacle second. And you can just tell how much he loves writing these characters. It just shines off the screen and into our hearts. There were so many little moments of dialogue in this film which really hit me in the feels, and often from unexpected characters like Mantis, Drax, and Nebula. You know what set me off in this movie? A character literally saying the word sky. I started weeping. But yeah, the emotion in this film is immense, and James Gunn really does do his best to give every character in this film their moment to shine. But I will say, because he is being generous with the screen time and all his characters, that it is kind of his downfall in a sense with this film. The film is a little bloated and a little overly long. I also thought that the villains were a little bit underbaked, particularly the High Evolutionary, which is a shame because I did find his motives quite interesting, almost Thanos-esque in the way that he wants to perfect the universe. But despite the film's long runtime, his scenes don't really allow a lot of moments for us to really empathize with him. Also, Chukwudi Iwuji gives a performance which is always at an 11. Okay, his character is mostly shouting for the time that he's on screen. It's a performance which is mostly peaks and very few valleys. You don't always have to be shouting in order to be seen as a threat. Will Poulter also plays a new antagonistic character called Adam, and I will say, I did like his performance. I did find him surprisingly funny. I just don't think he got given enough screen time to really round him out as a character. I will say all the performances of the returning actors were fantastic. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Klementieff, and of course Bradley Cooper as Rocket. It's really his movie, which is saying something because he's a CGI character. But yeah, again, the CGI in this movie is fantastic. But despite the film being a little baggy and the villains not quite reaching like legendary status, I still had a blast watching this film. The production design is some of the best in the MCU. The makeup as well was fantastic as always with the Guardians movies. The costumes were inventive and very colorful. The action set pieces as well were immense. Everyone's gonna be talking about one particular action set piece in this movie, and it's the corridor scene. It's shot to look like one take. It's definitely not one take, but it's just a fantastic, exhilarating, creative bit of action filmmaking. It was kind of giving me vibes of the church scene, you know, from The Kingsman. The soundtrack as well is also killer. I purposely didn't listen to the soundtrack when they released it on Spotify or Apple Music because I just wanted to go in and see how it was implemented into the story first and foremost. I'm so glad I did. The song choices were brilliant. The beginning song and the end song, oh, so beautiful. Inspired choices. I guess the more fitting word would be awesome. The awesome mix, part 3. So let's ask those 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch it again? Absolutely. It's going to be added to the collection for sure. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Yeah, this is an easy one for me to recommend. It's a fun, spectacular action movie with plenty of laugh-out moments, but also has loads of tear-jerking moments as well. If you're an animal lover like me, I should say that there are some distressing scenes which revolve around animal cruelty. It's not like explicitly graphic, but you know, it is suggested, and I still found those scenes a little bit harrowing to watch as well, so it should come with a slight trigger warning that if you're not a fan of, you know, animals in distress, then yeah, the film does have some moments which are a little uncomfortable, but also the film does have a few slightly gory moments as well. Like, it's not explicitly bloody or anything, but there are a few moments where I'm just like, ooh, this is a little bit more gross for a Marvel movie. But yeah, I still do recommend that you go watch this film in a cinema, okay? You're gonna have a great time. And third question, what score would I give it out of 10? I am so glad that James Gunn got to complete his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, and his decision to focus more on the Guardians themselves than the galaxy, I think, was a smart one, because the story just lends itself to a beautiful story about friendship and chosen family and self-acceptance. And I really did enjoy this movie. I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a score of 8 out of 10. But as always, guys, just one bloke's opinion. Want to hear from you. Have you seen Volume 3? If you have, what do you make of the film? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit a little like button for me. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And for more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hairfield, and I'll see you next time.